Welcome to the world of Roaming Revelator. If you're into motorbikes, you're definitely in the right place. If you're not, hope this will get you into it. It all works for me. So, what is Roaming Revelator? It's a trilogy of books that I wrote all about the motorbike world. It involves the motorbike experience. It feels like you're riding a motorbike while you're reading it. And it's got a lot of sex, a lot of violence, and a twisted mind of Dan involved in it. And there's some other characters that I won't spoil too much that come into it. And as I say, it's a trilogy. So the first two are out now. You've got Roaming Revelator and Search for the Revelator. Both those are on all Amazon platforms. I'll drop a link in below, and you can also message me as well, and I can get some copies out to you. Depending on what country you're in, I can easily get that to you. So also there's the third one, which I'm currently writing and absolutely loving. So that one's going to be called Avenged Revelator. It's my favourite story. It's going to be, it's dear to my heart. I've spent a lot of hours writing these books, but hopefully you'll enjoy it too. It's done really well across the world. Several countries all reporting back really good things. Huge sales from what I was considering would be what I would get. I thought I sold a few to my friends. Job done. It's just grown and grown and grown to this beast that I can no longer control, and it spirals out of control. So I'm going to give you an insight into Roaming Revelator, and through the series I'm going to give you more and more insight into the first book, some cheeky parts of the second book, and some sneak previews of the third book ready for when that's released. So sit back, get yourself a drink and enjoy. Roaming Revelator. What is it that makes a life? What is success? What is it that makes a man? Dan is a man at a fork in his life, looking for answers, debating if his life has been worthwhile or not. A life's journey played out in front of your eyes with all the twists and turns on the search for answers. His only friend is his motorbike, and till his revelations bring back the pain. Dan suffered the pain that drives him to despise the destructive part of his past, present and the future of the modern world. As he runs from himself and the world, he leaves a trail of destruction. Can Dan find himself before it's too late? Can he save himself? As Dan twists and turns through the winding road of life, fleeing aboard his only true friend, literally trying to outrun his past and silence it with a wail of exhaust noise from his motorbike. A broken mind and a tormented soul, he can't outrun it. As it catches up with him, can he fight off his demons? Who can help him? What could save him from himself? I really, really love this book, and I'm sorry if that seems a little bit weird, but I am genuinely loving this book. So there's a few portions that I'd like to just give you a bit of an insight into. So as you open the book, you get Roaming Revelator, a disillusioned soul running from his past and scared of his future, but more fearful of his own mind. And I've dedicated this book to all those that have supported me. I could not have done it without you. Equally, thanks to those that didn't believe in me. You made me work harder to achieve. So as I said, 15 chapters, 70,000 words, a lot of love has gone into this book, and a lot of hours just sat at the laptop enjoying writing this book. And I hope that you enjoy reading it as much as I've enjoyed writing it. Chapter 1, Chasing a Life. The road is wild. The road is calm. The road is your friend. The road is your enemy. The road is everything. Standing here, a wild man of the world, contemplating the road of life, avoiding the norms and herds of people, long greying hair falls upon his face, covering the lines of life, and an unkempt, long, scruffy beard, in a tight pair of jeans and an old leather jacket, with no place to go and no place to be, looking over the road that weaves towards distant towns. The question that spins around his mind: am I free or am I trapped? Who would know? Questioning the road his life has taken to this point, am I successful? What is success? What did I want? What do I want? Standing here in scuffed boots with weathered clothes, many would suggest I'm not successful. But his swirling mind starts again. I am more successful than I could ever imagine. Yet not successful. Who judges success? Who judges what makes a life? Reflecting and finding these inner revelations of himself, hindsight would be a wonderful thing, but foresight would have been better to avoid the problem in the first place. If only Dan had this foresight and had learned from his mistakes, how different would his life have been? Would it have been better? Or could it have been worse? He knew that one thing is true. Foresight may have helped him avoid the problems his winding road has led to. Would foresight have meant avoiding the need to run? Avoiding the need to be fleeing with blood on his hands after losing his temper? With foresight, would he have ended up beating a man half to death? His torturous mind continuing to torment him. What does it prove anyway? Am I a bigger man? Am I a hard man? Am I a hero? Or a violent psychopath? When I shed the blood, who am I? Would I choose differently, changing my revelations, if my hindsight had been changed into foresight? Dan's emotions are continuously mixing like the air and fuel of his bike, and creating just as an explosive reaction, forcing his pistons up and down. The demons keep him grounded, but fuel an ever mixed up response, questioning what is right and what is wrong. The mixed good and bad, the crazy in his mind, continuing to do battle. Who actually dictates what is right from wrong? Should I have learned from the first time I spilled blood? Or actually, does blood need to be spilled? Do you need to defend like a Viking? Is honour and revenge a necessary evil of life? Dan had lived his life at full throttle. So when challenged, his reaction is like the 0 to 60 of his power-crazed bike, thumping away until it runs out of fuel. His tank is big and the fuel always full, creating a dangerous reaction at every twist of his life. Back in his current reality, Dan is slowly contemplating, looking for his own revelations on life. Deep in the heart, success rages like a bull and failure weighs like a lead weight in equal measure, defining the polar opposite rise and fall from happiness to sorrow and rebirthing of happiness, a never-ending cycle happening faster than he can finish his rapidly cooling cup of coffee. The sweet smell of the fields basking in the sun evokes a feeling of content, but that feeling is crushed by the urges to discover, to move forward, forever moving, never staying too long. Having worked and lived in the same place for 30 years, to be tossed on the scrap heap redundant is enough to give anyone the desire not to stay long anywhere. There is time for that when you lay in your wooden box. So that's just a bit of an introduction to where we are. A few extra bits I'm going to give you before I just leave you. As she walked over, she looked at Dan. Her stride changed, crossing her feet as she walked, smiling in a way that made his heart approach 3 figures. What is it about her? Why does she intrigue him? Then she opened her mouth and leant forward, allowing her uniform to flop down so he could see the black and white bra she was wearing. His heart smashed 3 figures and his blood ran as cold as ice, but raged with the intensity of a towering inferno. What can I get you? Dan's chaotic mind rushed. It spilled around in his head. Well, fuck me, that answer can go 2 ways. He could already feel the blood pounding in his veins, hammering around his body. What can she get me? Naked, high, or both? That would be a start. But he gathered his thoughts, deepened his voice. Black coffee, all day breakfast, and whatever else you can give me. Smiling, he rolled his head back and gave her the look he gave through all of his life when he wanted to get something from a woman. Maybe having slightly less impact than 20 years ago, but she still gave him that twinkle in her eyes before she replied. So you want coffee, breakfast, and whatever else you can get. Maybe you will get what you want. She winked and strutted off back to the till. She looked over her shoulder and pushed her pen between her ruby red lips. Dan's body was shaking with desire, but sex would not be enough today. It would calm his beaten desires and set him up for the day. But today he needed more. He needed to live like today's the last day of his life. Today was going to be one of those days. A wild day. A dangerous day. Maybe this was the day he'd find himself again. Maybe it was the day he'd lose himself forever. He wasn't even sure. He didn't know who he was, what he was looking for anymore. As Dan watched her tiptoe, reaching to put fresh coffee beans into the machine, her legs extended, and so did his pulse. That tight red uniform with white edging, the details just enraged him. She turned and caught his stare. He was practically drooling. She looked embarrassed, yet confident. Phone boy was walking over in his linen trousers, rolled up and with no socks, and what looked like slippers. He reminded Dan of the yuppie type in the 1980s. He still wanted to ram that phone that the lad had got, anywhere he could. And he gave Dan that smile that said, I am so much better than you. Fuck, I'm going to lose my shit over him. 20 years ago I would have thrown him over the table by now and educated him on his personality deficit, with multiple education being repeated into his head. The waitress looked over at Dan with a smile which changed his whole demeanour, with a look of enticement and wonderment. Her poke-straight hair was loosely tied up, and she moved in a way that allowed her hair to fall gently to the side, exposing her neckline, accentuating her high cheekbones and the perfect sleek jawline. While the cerebral battle rampaged in his mind, the age-old battle of man occurred. The questions pushing Dan further than he can handle. Why am I here? What am I doing? Woman or war? This skinny, tall, goofy 20-something kid was pushing his primordial rage to war, but this curvy, pear-shaped, short-skirted waitress equally raises his primordial desires. All this, and he hadn't had his coffee or his breakfast yet. The phone boy swaggered up. How much? He immediately looked at his phone, and before she even had a chance to answer, he started a video chat. The youth of Des are fucking rude. You would not believe this place. It's such a shithole. They've not even got a vegan menu. Hey, look at this. He spun the phone round to face the waitress. This must be what happens when pretty stupid girls can't cut it as strippers. What the fuck? The goofy little prick was laughing in that fake, not funny, but I want to be loud and obnoxious kind of way. Before this thought had risen fully through his mind, Dan's pulse was so far in excess of 3 figures he could feel his heart beating hard. It was beating in his chest, trying to smash his way through his ribcage with the force of a sledgehammer. The taste and smell of blood was already filling his mouth and nose. He had bitten so hard trying to control himself he'd bitten through part of his bottom lip. With the blood now slowly seeping south of his lips, he screamed, "You motherfucking ignorant prick!" He leaped over the table and onto the next, splattering a leftover breakfast across the floor. The plate smashed, sending a tomato juice sensation up the brown wallpaper. The noise of the plate was smashing and still ringing in the restaurant, with everyone silently stunned and staring as he landed in front of him. His face distorted, confused, and his floppy hair already over his face. He was taller than Dan, younger, but only half Dan's weight. As he grabbed his throat, his left hand smashed into his face repeatedly. As he went limp in Dan's hands, gonna leave it there. Bit of a cliffhanger, hopefully. So I'm gonna have a little drink of whiskey. Good night, everybody.